Look at this. Homer John is in the house. I got my K-State turnover chain thing, whatever this is, for those of you that are just listening. So I will wear it the rest of the show while we make our predictions, okay?
You need to wear that when you make a Kansas State prediction in favor of the Cats this year, too. That can be your Lee Corso moment.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Hello and welcome into another edition of Fremont. I am John Kurtz, joined by Derek Young and Cole Manbeck. As today, we continue to break down the K-State football season. Getting close, people. We are into the month of August, just weeks away from the start of the season. And if you want to celebrate that, or if you're Cole and you got your boat stuck in a car wash and you need to drown your sorrows, raise a glass of Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon or 360 vodka from our friends at Holiday Distillery. They are awesome K-Staters. They have been supporting us for a long time. You guys know that. So make sure you go give it a try. You still got weekends at the lake. It's time to get ready for tailgate season. So many reasons to go get your Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon and grab some 360 vodka while you are at it. So thank you to our friends at Holiday Distillery for helping us out there. All right. We're going to do some over-unders today that Cole has put out there for us. Hopefully we do a little bit better than last year because Cole was playing us audio that you're not going to get to hear. I don't know. Maybe this will be a good thing to bring back for our Patreon subscribers, patreon.com/3ma. You want to be there. But Cole was playing us some of our predictions from last year with the over-unders. And, did not come out looking real well. Although I will say the clip that he just played us right before we came on, I at least sounded the smartest because I tried to voice a little bit of hey, maybe we should calm down on this. So I don't know. I mean, going into this, are you guys feeling like you got the Homer cap? Well, Cole literally has the Homer cap on right now. I guess I'll ask Derek where his Homer cap is at because he sounded like quite the Homer too in that clip that we just heard.
I was a Homer on a specific offensive player last year that did not materialize. So it'll depend on what things Cole mentions. I think I'll be pretty Homerish on some things, maybe not so Homerish on others.
To be fair, I mean, I only played you guys one clip that made us all sound bad. John sounded the smartest by far, for sure. He was actually just talked into it, essentially, of going over on a certain number that he was very skeptical of. The reaction by John was hilarious because he was like, really? And then he ended up going, fine, I guess I'll go over. But we did nail Will Howard when he reached 24 passing touchdowns or more to tie or surpass the school record for single-season passing touchdowns. He finished with 24, tying Al Roberson for 2003 for the most passing touchdowns. We nailed Ben Sennett, surpassing the school record for single-season receiving yards by a tight end at 591, set by Russ Campbell in 1991. And Ben Sennett finished with 676 last year. We all had the over on the 591 as well. So we got some things right, guys. So give it a listen. We got a lot of these in this show and a lot of historical context to compare to, thanks to our friends at Ryan Lackey and Kenny Lanou and all the outstanding work they do in the K-State Sports Info office to supply us with a lot of data points through the media guide, combed through it, very thorough as always by Ryan and Kenny. So using that as a point of reference here for a lot of this as we go through this show.
We also discovered that John can be bullied. So
yeah, I'm a little disappointed in myself. I was spot on, and then whatever. I will work on that. Personal growth. This is a personal growth show. And speaking of personal growth, Cole, you've been calling me out lately for being too negative, picking Oklahoma State to win the league, that I'm not enough of a homer. So today, when we start to do the over-unders, look at this. Homer John is in the house. I got my K-State turnover chain thing, whatever this is, for those of you that are just listening. So I will wear it the rest of the show while we make our predictions, okay?
You need to wear that when you make a Kansas State prediction in favor of the Cats this year, too. That can be your Lee Corso moment. Yeah. Also, to preface, before we dive headfirst into these, Cole's already admitted that he had to change some of the numbers because based on the totals that he produced when researching for this show, he had Avery Johnson shattering the school record for passing yards.
Yeah, so what happened was, I'm like, all right, DY and John are going to push me, because you did it last year. You pushed me on the numbers and how they added up, and I was prepared, and I had added all the numbers up to make sure it matched, right? So Yes. So I had adjusted my numbers, and so I'm going through this, and I'm like, I've got all the receiving yards that I'm estimating for all K-State's receivers, running backs, and tight ends for this season. And as I add them up, they did not align with what my Avery Johnson prediction was going to be for passing yards in a season. And as I added them up, guys, I'll just tell you, it ended up with Avery Johnson with 3,650 passing yards, which would surpass Jake Waters' 3,501 set in 2014 for the most in school history in a single season. And so I am readjusting here slightly as we go here on the fly.
And not counting a potential Big 12 title game or bowl game, that would have been over 300 yards a game.
Yeah, I think they threw for 241 a game last year.
Well, we just talked about that narrative that Avery Johnson wants to smash, that like, oh, can he throw? I was on 365 Sports the other day, and that was like, what, 1 through 10, like how can Avery Johnson throw the ball? First question out of the chute. So Cole's doing his best. I mean, Avery Johnson camp, listen up. Cole's doing his best to try and get that narrative all the way the hell out of here. Well, here's one narrative that I can tell you is going to be good every time. That is our friends at Elenco for all your home improvement needs. Our friends at Elenco have you covered. Local company based out of KC, owned by K-Staters. If you need anything done home improvement-wise, make sure you hit up Elenco. So the top storyline here is just going to be storyline number one, or over-under number one, rather, from Cole here in his list, which is about Avery Johnson that we just mentioned there. So, Cole, I guess on that note, talking about your Avery Johnson homerism, get us going.
All right. Well, Jake Waters leads K-State for total yards by a quarterback in a single season set in 2014 when he rushed for 484 and threw for 3,501, which came up to 3,985 yards, which is number one in school history for a single season in total yards by QB. Michael Bishop in 98, 3,592. Colin Klein in 2012, 3,561. L. Roberson in 03, 3,520, and Josh Freeman in 08 came in at number 5 for most yards in a single season by a QB at 3,349. I guess I'll just set it here. I mean, can Avery Johnson crack the top 5? Can he reach 3,349 yards or more for total yards in a single season this year in 2024?
Yes, but in 2025, not 2024. I think he will do that in 2025. You have to take into consideration new play caller, somewhat of a new offensive line. I think he will have the averages to do so later in the season, but maybe not so much early in the season.
Yeah, that's tough. For a second, I thought it was going to like the 3,000 mark, which is Will Howard was at about almost exactly 3,000 total yards last year. So I think somewhere in that neighborhood is certainly fair. I know I'm wearing the ridiculous homer chain here today, and I just made a big production about how I was going to try and be more of a homer because Cole has been dragging me that way. I'm going to say no. I'm kind of with Derek. Next year would feel like more that year. And we've talked about that. Like this team is kind of set up to, if you keep everybody around next year, like next year would be the real big explosive year for the team. But I'll say Avery can get around 3,000, which is where you had Will Howard last year. And you hope that it's perhaps a little bit more efficient because, Will did have plenty of turnover worthy throws last year.
I think they're certainly good enough to do it. I think they'll fall short of the number needed because of what happens in the first half of the season.
Well, it'll be interesting to hear you guys on the over-under then on Avery rushing yards and passing yards that we go through later on in the show. Will Howard, as you mentioned, John, in 2023, 2,994 yards. That's the 9th most by a quarterback in a single season for total yards in school history. I'm taking Avery with the over. Shocking, right? But I did just tell you guys that I had Avery not only over this number, I had him at 3,650 passing yards, which would take him number 2, not even total yards. Now, folks, I am dropping that number as we go here during the show. That is not realistic. That's too high of a burden to put on Avery Johnson and expectations here. So I will tone that down. But I will take Avery Johnson to crack the top 5 and go into surpass Josh Freeman for total yards by a QB of over 3,300 yards. I think he'll get to around 3,400 total yards this year for Kansas State.
And Cole's got Avery Johnson throwing for like Colt Brennan level yards here or something. By the end of the year.
I mean, we talk about him like a Heisman candidate, right? I mean, you're going to need to be around that number to be in the Heisman.
I don't think he's actually a one. That's my thing. I think he is in 2025.
Hey, I'm not going to slow down the hype train for everybody out there, but I do think that may be more likely of the two scenarios there. But I love the publicity that everybody is getting. Anyway, thanks to our friends at Elenco. Just mentioned them, local company based out of KC. All your home improvement needs, they have you covered. They are locally owned since 1986. They started in 1986 locally in an industry where most have been bought out by national companies. So you want to deal with people locally, these are who you need to talk to. If you need new windows or bathroom remodel, they have premium window replacements, Kohler Luxstone shower systems. You need new siding on your home, they've got you there too. And you don't have to be in Kansas City or Manhattan. They're in Western Kansas, Northeast Kansas, Western Missouri, Northeast Kansas, and the entire KC Metro. They go to Manhattan, Emporia, Topeka, Wichita, Rossville, etc. So go to elencohome.com. That's ALENCO home.com to check their services. You get free estimates. You can call Sam at 913-961-2165. You can even talk cat football with him. Great K-State fan. And these are awesome K-State people who just want to support our show because they love the Cats. So please go support them, elencohome.com. All right, Cole, what's next?
Well, let's just stick on the topic of Avery Johnson then, because we just talked about single season total yards. Let's go to Avery Johnson passing yards for this season. Will Howard, they're for 2,643 yards last season. That ranked sixth most in a single season in school history. Chad Mays, number 5 at 2682 for single season in school history. That was set in 1993. Does Avery Johnson crack the top 5 for single season passing yards and pass Chad Mays 2682 in 2024?
John, you go first this time.
Yeah, Will was at 2643 last year in 12 games. So that's, it's like a little over, if we're at 12 games, a little over 200 yards a game. Trying to do some quick math in my head. What was the total? Oh, I'm trying to do math. Cole, you've got me doing math, trying to make sure that I'm accurate across the board here.
I'm trying to catch you guys in a trap right now.
So because I said it would be like around 3,000 total yards. So if I pick him to go over 2,600, then we're only looking at like the same amount of rushing yardage as Will last year. So then the question becomes, how much are they going to try to run him? I mean, his legs obviously will be great, but how much will they try to run him? I think I've boxed myself into a corner where I pretty much have to take the under here because I think the rushing yards will be a little bit higher than what Will Howard had last year.
Again, over in 2025. I think under this year. I think it also plays a role is that you're going to, and I know they'll be getting passes too, but that you have both Dylan Edwards and DJ Giddens. I was listening to a podcast. I actually forget which one. So pardon me for whoever I'm sniping away from here. But Avery Johnson's numbers are probably not going to be as high as they could be just for the fact that DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards are both on this roster.
Yeah. I got him over, shocking, 2,682 yards. I have him cracking the top 5 for single season total yards and top 5 for passing yards. No pressure there on a true sophomore by the Kansas State quarterback. So I'll have him going over that number. I think I had something else in here. If people wanted to know, I mean, Jake Waters, I said at 35.01, and then Josh Freeman in 08 had 33.53 for total for passing yards in a season. Those are the only two 3,000-yard passers in school history. So we'll see. Do I think Avery Johnson's going to hit 3,000? I mean, probably based off the numbers that I somehow sketched out.
Yeah. And another reason why I think the under is the safe pick is we also 100% do not know what the pace is going to look like with the new play caller, and 100% do not know what the run-pass ratio will look like. And when you have two stud running backs, I think it's safe to go under.
All right. Well, we'll circle back to Avery here in a few minutes. Well, let's jump ahead to rushing the football. DJ Giddens in 2 seasons rushed for 1,744 yards on 312 carries, an average of 5.6 yards per rush. 1,744 is the 16th most on K-State's career rushing charts. Needs just 467 yards to pass J.J. Smith to break into the top 10 rushers in school history for a career. How does he finish this season? At the end of the season, as you look ahead, how high does he finish on the K-State all-time rushing charts? And for perspective, Alex Barnes is number 6 at 2,616. Daniel Thomas is number 4 at 2,850 on 545 attempts. Then you got John Hubert, number 3 at 2,993 yards. I don't think Deuce or Sproles are realistic. Deuce at 3,604 is number 2, and Sproles 4,979. So as you look ahead at the end of the season, where will DJ Giddens sit on the all-time rushing chart? Do you think he can catch John Hubert at 2,990?
You got to give us some math.
You got to give me a
under.
I can't.
Yeah, over under.
I need an over under.
Be a number.
Specific number. I was like sitting there. I was like, what? How am I? What am I doing?
Yeah, we're not able to do this on the fly in our head.
All right. Well, that would be 1,250 yards rushing this season to get to top 3 in school history.
Well, he didn't get 1,250 last year, and now he has Edwards back there with him, and Avery, who's probably, is much more explosive of a ball carrier than Will Howard. Maybe the tries look similar, so I would say under 1,250 for sure.
Yeah, I'll lean under. I mean, last year was 1,226, and that's looking at the stats here, listed in 13 games. 1,226. I'll say under. Again, just crowded, and especially I'm about to go over probably on whatever the Avery rushing prop is. I'm assuming, so that's going to lend toward me going the under here.
And what else is going to make that go under is you had to remember with DJ Giddens, he did that last year with a team with less explosive playmakers. Like if Avery Johnson busts one or Dylan Edwards busts one, that's yards away from DJ Giddens. And a little bit of a newer offensive line. I think Joe Jackson's going to earn his share of touches too.
Giddens rushed for 1,226, as we mentioned last season, on 223 carries. It was the 10th most rushing yards in a single season in K-State history. I was actually going to set the over-under at 1,266, which was the mark set by Daniel Thomas in 2009, which ranked 8th most in a single season. But you guys both would have went under that number as well. I'll go slightly under the 1,250. I think he'll be probably right around 1,150 to 1,200 rushing yards this season, and that's just because of the reasons you guys outlined, that there's far more playmakers on this offense and will take away some of the touches for DJ Giddens, so he'll still get the ball a large majority of the time. All right. Dylan Edwards rushed for 321 yards on 76 carries at Colorado as a true freshman while recording 299 receiving yards on 36 receptions. Let's just start at rushing here and set the over-under at 499 yards rushing. What are you taking over-under on 499 rushing the ball for Dylan Edwards?
Let's see, K-State's number 2 rusher, Trayshawn Ward, last year had 643. 500 rushing yards. A total yard prop for Dylan Edwards, I feel like, is where I'd start to be more comfortable going up with that. I'm gonna say slightly under.
It's about 42 if you go across 12 games. I know they could play 13. Probably will play 13.
I guess the problem with that though is like if he pops like 3 70-yard runs throughout the year, you're getting damn near halfway there.
You're getting halfway there. I'm just saying on a 12-game schedule, it's like 42 yards a game. He's going to pop a few, and Kansas State could play 13 or 14 games, and that makes the average less. I'll go over.
I'm taking the over on 499 rushing because of the explosive playability and his ability to hit an 80-yard explosive in a game for a touchdown. So I'm going to take over 499 for Dylan Edwards.
You know what else is going to screw with these totals is we don't know if it'll be 13 games or 14 games. That extra game is very big. And something that I haven't mentioned, and it just crossed my mind, I think Dylan Edwards houses a couple punts or kicks, and that takes away from the offensive numbers as well.
Yeah.
Well, I know maybe we should have established that before we started. Are we doing this based on just the regular season, just 12-game regular season? Or are we doing this based on the entire season?
I mean, the numbers he's using is for the entire season last year that would have included the bowl games. So
that's right.
Yeah. Okay. I'll stick to the under. I don't know. I think I probably would have gone over at the beginning of this if I would have totally calculated a 13th or 14th game there. Because I do.
You have it at 13 games. You didn't, judging by your Big 12 standings, you don't have Kansas State and Arlington.
Thanks, DY.
Yeah, you're right, but I have to consider it as a possibility when I'm taking it, because I have them finishing third. So I mean that's
the margin for error is still I get you.
All right, well, I looked at the 321 yards on 76 carries behind an awful Colorado offensive line last year.
It was basically in one game. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. setting the over. Oh, what
Did you say you're taking the over?
I'm taking the over.
I'll go over. Yeah, but
Okay. What about
usage gets me too, because I think he's going to be more of a receiving threat.
what about the over under on how many days this year you'll wear home field apparel? Cole, what's the over under on how many days this year you'll wear home field apparel?
I would set that at probably 120.
Okay, that's like a good third of the year. I mean, if that's not a shining endorsement for our friends at Home Field Apparel, I don't know what is. And you guys hear us talk about all the time, all the K-State gear that they have. This is one of my days, by the way, wearing Home Field Apparel, wearing it right now. But they're giving you even more ways to find K-State items, including their new exclusive boxes. Okay, the football box, 55 schools are getting these across the country, and one of them is K-State. So they contain 3 never-before-seen items that aren't available anywhere else. It's the only way you can get them, and they're curated so that you have gear to wear all season long, all weather conditions. They will take care of you with this box. And if you are Platinum Box VIP, you'll get additional exclusive items, including a new hat or ringer and a VIP koozie. So it's available August 9th. That's coming up here. We're recording here on Monday, August 5th. That's coming up August 9th at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So 9 Central is when those will drop. Highly limited. These will sell out. So you need to get on it at homefieldapparel.com right now if you want to get the K-State box. Make sure that you do it at homefieldapparel.com, and you can also get 15% off your first order using promo code 3MA24 as well. So got you covered on all angles with our friends at Home Field Apparel, and we're back in just a moment.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
You know when you discover a new binge-worthy show or a song that you play on repeat and you just have to share it with your friends so they can experience just how awesome it is too? Well, that's how we felt when we discovered that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. It's such an awesome deal, there's no way we could keep it to ourselves. Friends don't let friends overpay for wireless. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan and switch to Mint Mobile. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text, delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your own phone number and bring along all your friends. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/3ma. That's mintmobile.com/3ma. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/3ma. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
And if you are a fan of the show, a new way to get in touch with us, our friends at Mint Mobile bring you the Mint Mobile text line here on KCSN. So all you got to do is text 913-407-6524 if you want to tell us we're being too much of a homer, not enough of a homer. Whatever it is, tends to be how it works on the internet. Some will call you one, some will call you the other. 913-407-6524. Everybody, patreon.com/3ma in there. Be careful. Harambe, just be nice. Be nice. If you're going to come at Cole for being too much of a homer, just be gentle, okay? Make sure you get signed up at patreon.com/3ma if you want to be a part of the Discord and get these little inside joke references.
They're going to be big fans of Cole so far. Every positive spin he's got ready in the chamber.
Yes, but not Harambe. That's not Harambe's. DY, you wouldn't know because you don't hang out enough on the Discord. But Harambe is a little more on the negative end. Okay, so I'm not sure that he'll be
Harambe, right?
That's
actually an inside joke that you can't get on the Discord because it happened at the lake house.
Just ask us about it. I'll tell them all about it. Ask us on the Discord.
We discovered Cole did not know how to pronounce that name.
Yeah. All right, Cole. What's next?
Yeah, heaven forbid, didn't know how to pronounce a gorilla's name that got killed. So, all right, setting the
too soon.
All right. Speaking of Dylan Edwards, let's stay on the topic of him. setting the over-under for receiving yards at 434 yards, which there's a reason why I made it 434. Deuce Vaughn has the 4th highest mark for receiving yards by a Wildcat running back. He set it during the COVID season in 2020 at 434 yards. And just for the record, Mac Heron owns the top 2 marks, 652 yards in 1969 and 592 in 1968. Deuce has the 3rd most with 468 in 2021. But let's start at 434 for Dylan Edwards over-under receiving yards.
And I'm going to have Dylan Edwards with a big year because I think this one's over. I think he's going to be used more as a receiver than a ball carrier, probably. And it's kind of like what John said in the first one. It's hard to go under on Dylan Edwards totals because, he could pop one at any moment, and then that significantly changes the entire course of the score.
This is where I'm going to start staking my claim with an over here because I think I've hit all unders to this point. But I'm going over because I think he will be a big part of the passing game. And I am still skeptical enough about the receiver room, which is another thing I'm trying to be consistent with because we talked about that earlier on one of the shows. I'm still skeptical enough there. I think they'll need a little bit of help. And not just that, but also Garrett Oakley, who I believe in his talent, but the tight end room, not as deep at this point. And you're probably not going to have a guy like Ben Sinnott. So find another way to squeeze some extra juice out of the passing game. I think that'll be Dylan Edwards. And I think he can get a lot done here.
Yeah, I'm taking the over as well, which means that I have Dylan Edwards in almost 1,000-yard season, all-purpose between rushing and receiving, not even counting what he will bring to the table in special teams. That's how highly I think of his explosive ability. Like I said, 299 yards receiving, albeit a lot of that came against TCU in the season opener last year, but I think he has that dynamic, explosive playmaking ability. They'll utilize him some in the screen game. They'll get him motioned out to the slot, get him in some mismatch opportunities. Also, don't forget, I think one of the practice clips that we saw from K-State's practice that you guys had taken a clip of, DY, was Dylan Edwards on a jet sweep, which was actually a forward pass, assuming they pitch it forward to him. So there's going to be opportunities like that where they send him in motion and get him on some of those jet sweep passes and get him on the perimeter as well. So those would count as receiving yards. I'll take the over, and he will have a top 5 season in receiving yards by a running back in school history. All right, let's stay on the topic real quick. One more on the running backs. So we already talked about Dylan Edwards receiving yards. Let's combine DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards for receiving yards. DJ Giddens last year had 323 receiving yards. He's a really good receiving running back. Dylan Edwards and Giddens at their respective schools combined for 65 receptions for 622 yards in 2023. I'm going to set the over-under for those two combined receiving yards at 700 this year. Do they go over?
Man, I just had Dylan Edwards over 434. So I'll say DJ Giddens is under. I'll go under just barely.
DJ had 323 last year.
He'll have less this year.
Yeah, I'm going to go under. I don't think they'll need to use him as much. He's a really valuable asset there because he's got great hands, but there should theoretically be enough offensively going on that I don't think he'll have to do as much.
And he's less likely to pop one off like Dylan, though he did in the bowl game against NC State, and I realized that. And that consistency as a pass catcher game to game probably isn't going to be there because that's not going to be his forte. I think it's probably, you set the number perfectly because it really makes me toil here, but I think it'll probably be under.
Yeah, look, I struggle with this because I think DJ Giddens is a really good receiving running back. I think we all do, but how much are they going to utilize him in that with Dylan Edwards as well? I've got Dylan Edwards at over 434, which means DJ Giddens only needs 276 after having 323 last year. But because of the talent all around on the offense, I'll go slightly under the 700 yards combined receiving from those two out of the backfield.
Fair enough. Cole took it under.
Had to squeeze an under in somewhere in there. So there you go, guys.
Yeah, he's got a couple.
Yeah, I got a couple somewhere. All right. You guys ready for the next one?
Yep.
All right, well, let's just stick with rushing here real quick. Avery Johnson, rushing yards this season, 550, over under.
Under. I think that it'll be 500 even-ish around that ballpark. I think there will be a game where they probably lean on it more because it's tight and they realize that's what's working. And I think there'll be a handful of games where he doesn't have 30 yards. So I'll say under.
Well, you stole my thunder a little bit there for my reasoning for going over. Like, I think there's going to be times where they're in a tight game and like that's what's working and you need to go to it. And even if it's not necessarily planned, but like guys aren't getting open. Again, my questions about the receiver room here, he may have to take off and start doing a lot of it on his own with his legs. It's just such a valuable weapon that I have a hard time seeing them. I know that they will certainly try, to throw to win as much as they can, and I think that will work a lot. But there are going to be times when you realize, like, dude, this is really like the best weapon we've got on the offense. You're going to be forced to use it enough that I think that'll hit the over, yeah.
And another thing where I think it's under is, like, as long as we know, like, on these quarterback design runs and even the scrambles, like, the quarterback is still running through contact. I don't think he's going to run through contact. I think he will slide. I think he will go out of bounds. So I don't think he will get the absolute maximum amount of yardage in front of him every single time either.
Okay. I'm going to take the slide under here at 550, only because I don't think they're going to do a lot of QB design runs with him, and he's going to have some big play, capability in the running game, and I do think he's going to pop some and he'll run the ball, but I don't have him at 550 or over. I'll take him slightly under because I think they're going to be a little more cognizant, try to protect him. And remember, in the bowl game against NC State, I mean, how many QB design runs were there, DY, in that bowl game? 3 or 4? And one of them was the
might have been less than that. And what I will say, too, is I could see them using him more that way, like against Oklahoma State, KU, Iowa State, maybe at the end of the season, although at that point you're probably going to, the season has taken its toll and maybe you'll be more cognizant of it at that point too. But he has that 3-game stretch right before Iowa State where I don't think they'll have to run him at all, right, against Houston, Arizona State, and Cincinnati.
Yeah. All right. This question could have a negative connotation with it, but it's on the topic of Avery. So interceptions this season. He didn't throw a pick last year in his 66, I believe it was 66 passing attempts. Over the Chris Kleiman era for interceptions by a K-State quarterback, you had 10 by Will Howard in 2023. You had 6 in 2022 combined between Will Howard and Adrian Martinez. 7 in 2021 between Skylar Thompson and Will Howard. You had 10 in the COVID season in 2020, Will Howard. And then you had 5 in 2019. So K-State has really done a nice job not throwing the ball to the other team. They've averaged 7.6 interceptions per season in Chris Kleiman's 5 years at Kansas State. So I guess let's just set the over-under for Avery Johnson interceptions at 8, which is right around the average mark for the Kleiman era.
I'll go under just because we don't have a whole lot to go off of, but the small sample size that we do, that was the NC State game, had him being like maybe more careful than he even needed to be at times in terms of throwing the ball away. And he just, maybe he'll take more chances when we see the larger sample size, but from what we know, he didn't take many against NC State. And because of that, I'll go under. Now because of the runs, maybe there's some, I could see maybe bad snaps, fumbles, new offensive line, new center, new quarterback. I could see that maybe being more of an issue than the interceptions.
I'm going to go under. I mean, for a true freshman, he seemed well beyond his years in terms of taking care of the football. Again, limited sample size. I understand that, but I feel like he's in a pretty good spot as far as that goes. He's not somebody that, despite his skill set, tries to force it a lot. So I'm pretty confident in the under there. Yeah, I would think it'd be more like 6.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm going to lean slightly toward the under, probably around 7, and a large part of that is because of what DY outlined. He was very efficient last year, and what you saw in the bowl game, he threw the ball away whenever there was a risk. Now, he might take some more chances this year. It depends on, where they're at in a certain game. He might have to take a few more chances, throw the ball downfield more, and I think he will. but I think he's risk averse in a way. He's very smart with the football and will throw it away if he's in a tough situation. So he won't just heat one up. So I'll take the under there. All right. Ben Sinnott set the school record for receiving yards in a single season with 676 yards by a K-State tight end last year. But he also recorded the sixth most receiving yards by a tight end with 447 during his sophomore year in 2022. And perhaps that's a better comp year to compare Garrett Oakley to, given Oakley's entering year 3 and the program as a redshirt sophomore like Sinnott was heading into that 2022 season. So I'm going to set the over-under for Oakley at 447. Can he surpass Ben Sinnott's season in 2022 that ranks 6th most by a tight end in school history? 447 over-under for Garrett Oakley.
Much of the same reason why I went under on a lot of the others. I think just what Ben Sinnott didn't have was what we perceived to be an improved wide receiver room. Like, we'll see how it transpires. I know John's still skeptical of it, but if we assume that the wide receiver room is better than the two that Ben Sinnott played with the last 2 years, and now you have DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards, and you have Avery Johnson, a lot of mouths to feed for Garrett Oakley to do what Ben Sinnott did 2 years ago. Under.
Yeah, I'm going under. Like, love Garrett Oakley. Think there's a lot of potential there. Need to see it. There should be more weapons around there. I mean, I would argue that, Dylan Edwards is a more established supplemental weapon to the passing game right now at this stage in their college careers. So I think Ben Sinnott, the more I've thought about it and gotten away from last season, I think we probably have not appreciated Ben Sinnott enough. I think that's one of the more underappreciated parts of the team. And some of that is because we had heard so much hype and good things, so many good things about Garrett Oakley coming up. But I'm going to go under it.
This is going to sound bad, but some of Ben Sinnott's excessive yardage or really good performance last 2 years in terms of production was a product of not having other guys that they felt really confident in.
Yeah, Garrett Oakley, 11 catches for 154 yards last year, 14 yards per catch. He did it in only 5 games. You guys recall he missed the first few games in the season due to injury, was banged up. For me, this is an easy over. And Garrett Oakley is going to go north of 447. I got him around 500 yards. So slam the over button. I'm very high on Garrett Oakley, and I think he will be a favorite target for Avery Johnson.
And for the record, I like a lot of these guys. I just think a lot of them are going to have the same amount of yards. They got to share the ball.
Yeah. It becomes hard when you try to distribute these, which is why I was trying to recalculate some of the numbers earlier when you look at it individually.
Because they have more what you would perceive as reliable offensive weapons this year in the passing game. Some of the numbers historically just aren't going to translate to the season.
Yeah. All right, K-State's had 8 different players in school history record a 1,000-yard season from a receiver standpoint. There's actually been 9 1,000-yard seasons, but Tyler Lockett accomplished it twice. I'm not going to ask you, does K-State have a 1,000-yard receiver in 2024? We got crawl before we walk here. So under. I didn't ask, just to clarify. The most receiving yards, the most receiving yards by a K-State receiver since Tyler Lockett in 2014 was 725 by Malik Knowles in 2022. I'm just going to give you guys a quick outline here of the leading wide receiver, specifically plays wide receiver since 2014, Tyler Lockett. Dante Burton led the team with 5'10 and 15. Byron Pringle, 631, then 724 by Pringle and 17. Zuber, 619 to lead the team in 18. Dalton Schoen at 579 and 19. Shabastin Taylor at the COVID season, so we can kind of throw this out, 293 yards. Phillip Brooks in 2021, 543. Malik Knowles in 22, 725. And Phillip Brooks in 2023 led the team for wide receiver at 589. Ben Sinnott technically led the team with 676 that year when he was a tight end. So now that you have that teed up and you recognize that K-State's leading wide receiver typically averages around 500 to 700 yards over the last 9 or so seasons, let's just start here. Keegan Johnson. And we know where John's going to go with this, right? Yeah, because, Keegan Johnson over under 700 yards.
Excuse me, Keegan Johnson gets top billing?
Well, where did you want me to start, Jace? I'm going to go to Jace. I'm going to go to Jace next. I think Keegan Johnson's going to be a breakout player, a wide receiver this year. He had the 227 yards last year, was banged up. This is one guy that John was skeptical on last year on the over-under. And just to be fair, we set the over-under heading into last season at 700 yards for Keegan Johnson. I'm setting it there again.
Under. So you're setting it there again? You're not going to learn from your mistakes last year? I mean, look.
Are you going to learn? Can I bully you into it again?
Keegan, I love you, man, and I hope that this clip gets played back next year and we're making fun of it because of how skeptical I am here. I genuinely hope that, but I got to be realistic with this. Like, I was expecting an over-under of like 500, and at that, I'd be thinking about it. So no, under.
I'll probably answer both here. I think I'll go under on every wide receiver, but I say Jason Keegan both go over 600. I think you get 2 over 600.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking the over here, John. Keegan Johnson's my breakout guy.
I think he could be a breakout guy without touching 700. Like I that would be my pick, is that Keegan Johnson, Jace Brown both go 600 plus, but don't get to 700.
The thing about Keegan is, obviously, it's going to be dictated by health, largely. If he can stay healthy, I think he definitely goes over the 700 mark, and I'm projecting him to stay healthy by saying he's going to go over there. The thing with Keegan last year, like, his longest reception was 20 yards, and his average per catch was 9.5 yards. When he was at Iowa as a freshman, 18 for 352, he averaged almost 20 yards a catch. I think he had like 6 or 7 balls that went for 30 or more yards just in his freshman year at Iowa. That's the type of player he can be if he can stay healthy. That's a big if, but I think he gets over that hurdle this year. I think he is healthy, and he goes over the mark here, because I think he's one of the biggest keys to this offense, and I peg him as the breakout guy outside of Avery Johnson, as the breakout guy on this offense in 2024.
I mean, I like him to do it too. I don't see 700. I see 600.
All right. Well, let's go to John's guy next, Jace Brown, who had the most receiving yards by a true freshman in school history with 437 last year, third most by a freshman overall, and behind Aaron Lockett's 928 in 1998 and Kevin Lockett's 770 yards in 1993. The most receiving yards by a sophomore in school history is 816 by Michael Smith, set in 1989. So let's go over under Jace Brown, 825 yards in 2024.
I'm like, dude, I want to be positive and like not get the negative reputation. But what are we doing setting the bar?
Yeah.
I mean,
hasn't been done since Bill Snyder's first season.
Michael Smith was a dog, and also that was like Bill Snyder early years when they didn't have much, like he was doing it all.
You can't get 825 when you also have DJ Giddens.
No, I gotta go under, man. And I think Jace Brown will be a star. Like, I think he's going to be among K-State fans, certainly a household name by the end of the year. But I would think it'd be more in like the 600 to 700 yard range. Yeah,
and you also have to throw the ball a lot. Like, you have to throw the ball like 40 times a game.
I mean, I'm actually very surprised you guys are so skeptical of this number. This number is set very fairly. He had 437 yards basically in the last 6 or 7 games last year.
This roster is a lot different. This offense is a lot different. There is a different play caller, which I think could lean towards running it just a hair more. And you have a lot more mouths to feed, is what I continue to say. There's going to be a lot more distribution and spreading out of yardage.
I mean, I get there's more mouths to feed, but that also could lead to more explosive playmaking ability for a guy like Jace Brown, who had 16.2 yards per catch, which I believe was the most by a true freshman wide receiver in college football last year. Like, I think 825 is a very reasonable number for a jump that you would expect from a guy that went from his true freshman season to sophomore year, and he's very close with Avery and works very closely with them. He's a favorite target. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to go slightly under, but I think he'll be close to 800 yards.
If you think he's close to 800 yards, then you're probably right. Where Avery Johnson flirts with a top 3 or top 4 year passing, I just don't see that in year 1 for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely consistent with your Avery Johnson prediction, but I don't know, man. You're asking him to completely buck the trend of what K-State has been over the last decade. Like, it's hard for me to.
And I hope you're right. Don't get me wrong, but you're literally describing one of the best quarterback years in Kansas State history for Avery Johnson, who's only started 1 game. I think there's going to be a lot more growing pains than what you foresee.
Well, I want to run the math here real quick. 401 divided by his last 7 games, average 57.2 57.3 yards per catch. So if you take 57.3 and you extrapolate that over 13 games, shoot, comes out to 745 yards. All right, so but that's not even counting.
To be clear, if you ask me if Jace Brown would go over under 750 or 800 with last year's offense, I would maybe go over, but the weapons are a lot different.
Let me throw one more thing out there. What's the other thing we've heard about the change in offensive coordinator and just what they're doing on offense? That they're probably going to use a deeper rotation at receiver. It's not going to be this like, hey, Colin Klein, we're going to play the same 3 receivers the entire season. And Cole, you love Trey Spivey. We talk about Trey Spivey. They brought in Dante Cephus. Like, Jaden Jackson is still there. I mean, if they're going to use a deeper rotation at receiver, that's going to cut down on guys having as big a statistical year.
All right, well, I'll take slightly on the under here, but I will defend my 825-yard mark. What would you guys set the number at?
What would you, Jace? I would say would probably win 700.
700-ish.
All right. Well, we'll move on. You critics. I will say last time I was criticized on an over-under number and laughed at a couple years ago. Or
I hope,
actually.
I hope we're the ones that get laughed at here, but it just that if we're going to be managing, I'm managing expectations a little bit just because so many of these guys have never even been really, really good players yet, or much less for a full season.
All right. Dante Cephus, over under. I mean, I'm gun shy. I'm worried you're going to laugh at the numbers I said. Dante Cephus.
1,000. Will he be the next Tyler Lockett? 1,000 yards.
I mean, when Cole set these numbers at, everyone's going to be like, John and Derek doesn't think Kansas State's any good this year.
Dante Cephus, over under 400 yards receiving.
That's a pretty good number.
I will go under because I think Jaden Jackson, there's a chance Jaden Jackson's more of a contributor than a Dante Cephus this year.
Okay. I've got Cephus under.
Maybe I'm a little swayed by NCAA. It seems like Cephus is pretty...
He's better on that game than...
He's pretty good on NCAA. Look, he's back with Matthew Middleton, and when he last worked with Matthew Middleton, he was like a top 20 player in the portal when he went to Penn State. And
1,000-yard receiver.
We know that was a black hole of an offense last year. Give me $1, Bob. 401 receiving yards this year for Dante Cephus.
John's like, I desperately need to get it over here, so I'm just going to pick Dante Cephus.
I mean, look, I do think like Cephus is I said it in our Discord the other day. He's a wild card. He's hard to figure out. Just 15 months ago, he was ranked as the number 15 overall player in the entire transfer portal before he went to Penn State, coming off his dynamic seasons at Kent State. So the capability is there. Can he make the jump to the Power 4 level? Penn State's offense was hard to read because they struggled in the passing game last year. They were 86th in yards per pass attempt. The Nittany Lions were. But there hasn't been a ton of buzz. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I'm going to take the under for Dante Cephus so that I don't get bullied for taking the over on everybody. Plus, I got to get that number down a little bit so I don't end up with Avery Johnson throwing for 8,000 yards in 2024. So under on Dante Cephus. Let's jump to Trey Spivey, over under 300 yards.
I mean, I would love for that one to be over. Like, that would be a really fun one to be over. I'm still going to go under, though. Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be out there and make an impact. I'm trusting them that they're going to get him out there on the field and use him. But I think I'll take the under for now.
You just said on the Discord he was going to hit 350 yesterday.
Oh, I know. I thought it was more than that. I thought I was trying to be like unrealistically high expectations on. I should have said like 700. I'm just gassing people up in the Discord because I'm supposed to be the negative guy.
50 yards a game seems like a stretch.
Well, that's 300 that's only 25 yards a game.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
missed a minute there. Flip that. Now at 25, 300 Trey Spivey. Under. Can't.
I'll go slightly under. I think I have him around 250 to 300, but I think he'll come on as the season goes. Another guy that's close to Avery Johnson and has the potential as he learns the playbook and gets more time in the system. Jaden Jackson, DY, I think I know where you're going to go with this based off what you said earlier. I set the over-under for Jaden Jackson at 300 yards as well, and he had 19 for 252 last year, though 10 receptions for 162 yards came in the first 3 games. So He didn't have 100 yards receiving total over the last 10 games last year, but I'll set it at 300 for Jaden Jackson, who comes back for his 5th season of college football.
Yeah, he was a big benefactor in non-conference play, beating up on some of the lowly teams on the schedule when Keegan Johnson wasn't really playing. There's a chance that happens, right? You have some injury-prone guys on the team. I think Jaden Jackson might start. I think that's on the table. So I think 300 is certainly doable for him.
So that's a good number for him. I'll take over. I'll take over on Jaden Jackson. You know, I mean, there's a ton of young talent on this team and guys that need to step up and prove themselves. And so I think it provides an opportunity for just a kind of solid, more steady guy that's been around. I mean, I guess maybe based on the way his season went numbers-wise last year, it's not totally fair to characterize that, but he's been around college football for a long time, obviously starting at Ole Miss, and it's been around now K-State for a while. So because of that, maybe a more reliable target early in the season when guys are getting their feet under them a little bit more, Cephus getting adjusted, things like that. I'll take a slight over.
I'll take a slight under on Jaden Jackson, and I just want to announce that I'm also changing my pick on Jace Brown and going over the 825 because I will not allow myself to be bullied by you two into changing my number like John did last year, which then proved incorrect on a certain player. So I'm going to stick with my guns. I'm taking the over on 825. I'm taking the over on Keegan Johnson at 700. I'm taking the over on Garrett Oakley at 447. He's going to have 500. All right. This passing attack is going to be dynamic, man. I mean, I
don't think we're running the ball this year, guys.
No. I mean, you got to remember, I think I still had K-State running the ball for, well over 2,000 yards based off the numbers that we gave. No, I did take Avery Johnson slightly on the under of 550 yards rushing and DJ Giddens slightly on the under at 1,250 yards. I think I had him at 1,150, 1,200. Avery Johnson, real quick, rushing touchdowns. Let's set it at 11 in perspective.
Can I stop you? You have a 1,000-yard rusher in DJ Giddens. You have Dylan Edwards getting 1,000 yards total. And you have an 800-yard receiver and a 700-yard receiver.
And a top 5 tight end season in school history.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, we better not be losing.
Well, there's a reason I put K-State in the playoff. I mean,
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Avery Johnson rushing touchdowns. So during the Chris Kleiman era, the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback was set by Skylar Thompson actually in 2019 with 11. Avery had 7 last year. Will Howard had 9. So those two combined for 16 rushing touchdowns last year, which is the most by K-State QB room for rushing TDs during the Kleiman era. So I'm just going to set it at 11 over-under for Avery Johnson rushing touchdowns.
I know I have the yards lower, but I'll go over in the touchdowns.
And I think over. Yeah, man. I mean, look.
He had a 5-1 game last year that he didn't even start.
That's the thing. I think he'll have a game like that this year where like somebody just can't stop it at all, and they'll really kill him with it, and that'll propel a lot of that throughout the season. So yeah, I'll take over.
I'll take under. And I also don't think they're going to line him up and run like mini QB sneaks with a guy like him, especially when you got the talent in the backfield of DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards. Like I don't think like in short situations they're going to have Avery Johnson going up the middle and taking too many hits in a QB sneak situation. So, but it's a little bit of a guess because we don't know necessarily what Matt Wells and Riley are going to do.
He'll use the speed of the edge.
Well,
and you have the fastest player in the Big 12. You're going to use them.
I would also just again submit like when they're in a tight game, like you're at Iowa State and you're down 3 and you got to punch it in the red zone. You tell me they're not going to run QB power from the 3-yard line? Like
that? No, that's totally cool. And I said this a few times, I think in the past about, will they get away from the QB run game? It's easier to say you're going to get away from it in July and August. It's a little bit harder to say that in October and November.
Yeah.
And John, in your hypothetical situation, no, they're not running QB power. They're running an RPO pop pass to Garrett Oakley for a touchdown.
Okay. Well, that's what you need. Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's only getting me 3 yards in that situation. I need to boost that yards per game or yards per catch average. All right. Well, I had more, but I think that's plenty. So sorry, folks, for apparently setting some bad over-unders here, but play along with us, on our Patreon, on our Discord. I think people are going to keep track, the folks over
Mint
there.
Mobile. No, with Mint Mobile.
Yeah, send us what your over-unders are.
Hey, there we go. Mint Mobile text line 913-407-6524. KCSN hotline powered by Mint Mobile. I get, whatever. Just text it. Let us know.
Nick, did we have any text?
I just looked into our chat for the first time that we have with our producer, and all I see is R.I.P. Harambe.
Yeah, rest in peace, Harambe. Nick, did we get any texts to the Mint Mobile hotline from the last show when we first promoted it? You did get a few. Any great ones?
Well, putting him on the spot.
Yeah.
No. I thought there was at least one text in there that was pretty good.
What is Cole's having a conversation with the producer that people can't even see?
By the way, I know nothing of this, so I have no idea.
Great podcasting from Cole. I had a conversation with someone that the audience can't see or hear.
Damn it. I texted the hotline guys yesterday and I got a response from Tucker. We were texting back and forth. Tucker manages the hotline.
So that's why you were trying to come across as funny. I got it.
Wait, did he know it was you?
No, I don't think at first he knew it was me, and then because he said he'd pass it along. But my username was Gundy for Prez _88, and the text said, "Does Cole's back hurt from carrying 3 mall all the time?" God. And I thought it would be funny to read, but
it's a great response by Tucker, man. That is like that is exactly what you say when you're just like okay, well, I'll pass it along, man.
and did not pass it along.
Damn it, Tucker.
Good work, Tucker. 913-407-6524 for the KCSN hotline powered by Mint Mobile. That is good work by Tucker. That is great producing there. Thank you for not allowing that to hit our desk, Tucker. Great work there. Okay, well, thank you to all of our great sponsors. You guys know the drill. Get out and support them because they do such an awesome job supporting our podcast and allowing us to bring it to you the way that we do. We appreciate Nick Springer behind the scenes and, of course, Tucker D. Franklin. The D stands for doing a great job of keeping Cole's ridiculous texts out of the show. For Derek Young and Cole Manbeck, I am John Kurtz. Thank you for listening to another 3 Mall. We'll talk to you soon.